As someone who frequently travels solo, since my friends are often too occupied or financially unable to join me on constant adventures, I found myself booking a flight to San Diego for the very first time. Having explored most major Californian cities, San Diego remained unchecked on my travel list, making this trip particularly exciting. I secured accommodation at a respectable hotel situated conveniently near downtown. During check-in, I encountered a gentleman slightly older than myself in the lobby area. He initiated a friendly conversation, inquiring about my origins, duration of stay, and previous visits to the city. He mentioned this was his second visit and that he was also traveling alone. Generously, he offered to assist with my luggage since he was heading upstairs regardless. Grateful for his courteous gesture, I accepted his help. Together, we rode the elevator to the second floor where my room was located. He placed my bags outside my door, expressed pleasure at meeting me, and wished me an enjoyable stay before departing down the corridor. After thanking him once more, I entered my room, positioned my luggage on the bed, and rested briefly to recharge. Feeling refreshed, I returned to the lobby, preparing to venture outside, when the front desk attendant called me over. She inquired about what transpired when the man and I went upstairs, and I explained he simply helped transport my bags. Her expression grew serious as she warned me that the man had been loitering outside the hotel for an extended period and entered shortly after my arrival. She expressed strong suspicion that he wasn't actually a guest and advised me to avoid him if encountered again. This revelation was deeply disturbing. While hoping she was mistaken and he was genuinely kind, I decided to heed her warning for safety's sake. I spent the day exploring and enjoying myself, returning hours later to change for dinner. A different staff member was now manning the front desk. In my room, I showered quickly, changed attire, and lay down for another brief rest. During this time, someone knocked on my door, followed by a soft male voice claiming to be housekeeping. This seemed odd since I hadn't requested housekeeping services and it was only my first day. Perhaps they had the wrong room. When I checked the peephole, the hallway appeared empty, which was extremely peculiar. Immediately, the earlier man came to mind. What if this was him? I ignored the knocking and called the front desk to inquire if they'd dispatched housekeeping to my room. They confirmed they hadn't, so I requested someone be sent for my safety. Within 5 minutes, a hotel maid knocked. I opened the door, politely explained the situation, thanked her for coming, and then left for dinner. After dining, I joined a City Lights night tour and explored the vibrant nightlife areas, returning to the hotel around 10 p.m. I approached the front desk worker and explained the earlier incident with the man I suspected might have impersonated room service. I asked if she'd seen anyone matching his description in the lobby. She said no, and to reassure me, she checked the live surveillance feed of my floor, confirming the hallways were empty. Grateful, I went upstairs to my room, changed into sleepwear, and turned on the television to help me fall asleep. Within an hour, I was drifting off, the TV audio beginning to blend into my dreams in that half-conscious state. When I heard the door closing, it initially seemed part of my dream, until I felt the mattress shifting as weight was added to the other side. Looking over my shoulder, I saw a man in a black mask and baseball cap climbing onto the bed, reaching toward me. He grabbed me, attempting to muffle my screams, but I fought back long enough to scream desperately. He continued trying to silence me while I struggled and resisted, until someone began knocking on the door. I screamed for help, and realizing his plan was failing, he released me, opened the door, shoved the woman who was knocking to the floor, and she watched him flee down the hall toward the stairs. The woman entered to check on me as I sat in complete shock, tears flowing. Neighbors from adjacent rooms came to investigate the commotion, hotel staff arrived, and police were summoned. Hotel video footage revealed the man had somehow obtained a master key granting him access to my room. Although the mask and hat concealed his identity, I strongly believed it was the same man who had helped with my bags initially. I suspect he wanted to discover my room number to return later. It's frightening to consider he may have succeeded with someone else. Despite attempting to enjoy the remainder of my trip, this experience will likely remain with me forever. The hotel provided a full refund for my entire stay and relocated me to a different room. Looking back, I probably should have pursued legal action against the hotel. They did provide all necessary footage to the police department, though I was never contacted to identify anyone, suggesting the perpetrator was never properly identified or apprehended.
Don't forget to like and subscribe if you dare to hear more chilling stories.
It was Christmas break during my freshman year at a New York City university. Being thousands of miles from my family in Bulgaria, I decided to surprise them with an unexpected holiday visit. For those unfamiliar with Bulgaria's location, it's a small Eastern European country neighboring Romania and Greece. While Bulgaria doesn't have the best reputation for safety and regulation, this story ironically contrasts that perception, as the danger occurred elsewhere. JFK Airport was predictably chaotic just days before Christmas Eve, making my travel experience significantly more complicated and stressful. After enduring hours of security checks, baggage weighing, and endless waiting, I finally reached some respite when boarding the first flight from Manhattan to Istanbul began. The 8-hour journey ahead promised to be uncomfortable and painful, given the typical economy class seating arrangement. Unfortunately, I was seated between two men. As a 5-foot, 110-pound woman, this made the situation even more uncomfortable, especially since both men were over a foot taller and could easily overpower me. The man to my right remained relatively quiet, dark-haired, glasses-wearing, and noticeably muscular. The man to my left, however, immediately unsettled me. He would occasionally mumble to himself quietly and compulsively pick at his skin, sometimes nudging his arm against mine. I made mental notes about the man to my left, while trying to endure what I hoped would be a tolerable 8-hour flight. My motivation came from knowing I'd be in my homeland in less than 48 hours, but this optimism was short-lived. While minding my own business, working or listening to music, I'd catch the man blatantly staring at me. Initially, I dismissed this behavior, thinking perhaps he had a disability affecting his social awareness. However, as time passed, I began doubting this charitable interpretation. At one point during the flight, while I was watching American Horror Story's second season, the man began speaking to me, questioning why I was watching a show that poorly portrayed mentally ill murderers and similar individuals. Nervously and hastily, I asked if he needed anything, since randomly disturbing a stranger minding their own business seemed inappropriate. The American Horror Story season I was watching was Asylum, which depicted cold-blooded killers and mentally disturbed individuals in a psychiatric hospital setting. The man looked directly into my eyes and said with disturbing candidness, "I just think it's messed up how everyone assumes people who skin others alive are crazy. I mean, aren't we all like that?" Internally, I began panicking, wondering who exactly I was seated next to and whether anyone else had heard his comment. I chuckled nervously, trying to appear unbothered, but for the remainder of the flight, I was terrified. I considered requesting an available seat toward the rear of the plane, but ultimately endured until we reached Istanbul. I gathered my belongings as quickly as possible and exited the aircraft immediately. I wish this story ended there, but unfortunately it doesn't. The rest of my Christmas holiday proceeded normally, though the man's words continued echoing in my mind like a persistent bell. As January approached and I prepared to return to New York, I was sorting through my tote bag and discarding old travel trash when I discovered a disgusting note that must have been slipped inside while I slept. It read, "I wish I could see what you look like under your skin." I deeply regret not photographing it as evidence because just 1 month later, in February, my younger sister sent me a news article about the exact same man from my flight being imprisoned for multiple counts of rape, attempted rape, kidnapping, attempted kidnapping, and first-degree murder in Istanbul. Reading that article made me physically sick, and honestly, that entire experience drove me to remain home for holidays for several subsequent years.
Don't forget to like and subscribe if you dare to hear more chilling stories.
During winter 2018, my girlfriend Claire and I took a week off work to escape cold weather by visiting a beautiful beach resort in Mexico, where crystal blue waters and perfect weather awaited us. The resort offered an extremely affordable 7-day all-inclusive package featuring a buffet, 3 pools, beachfront location, numerous bars, an entertainment hall, and countless group excursions. With a full week ahead, we had extensive plans. The initial days were spent relaxing around the resort, taking advantage of the unlimited drinks package. The resort's surrounding area consisted mainly of jungle and scenic roads, so on the 3rd day, we took a private shuttle to the nearest car rental facility. The shuttle driver warned us against straying too far from the coast, explaining there were many unsafe areas. We rented a Ford Fiesta, not exactly premium options like Mustangs or Camaros at this particular rental location. The car rental shop was located in a small city, approximately 5 miles from our resort. Essentially, one long road ran alongside various resorts, bordered by miles of jungle and occasional small towns. We drove south until reaching Tulum, though the actual city proved less appealing than anticipated, despite many friends constantly expressing desire to visit there. After driving through the Tulum area and back north, we discovered a dirt road leading into jungle territory and decided to explore where it led. On both sides stretched jungle for miles. We drove down this wide dirt path, enjoying the scenery and minor off-roading experience, though Claire worried about dirtying the rental car. I agreed, so we performed a 3-point turn and headed back toward the main road. Eventually, 3 men emerged from the jungle onto the road, stopping us. We both simultaneously said, "Oh no," recognizing potential trouble. I brought the car to a halt and lowered the window slightly as one man approached, speaking in Spanish. I responded, "No hablo español," and things became heated. Another man approached Claire's window and knocked. I told her not to lower it. The man at my window began saying, "Money, money," while I saw the third man moving toward my window, pulling a knife from his right pocket. I floored the gas pedal, and the car lurched forward. The 3 men yelled and ran after us, but obviously couldn't outrun a vehicle. Our hearts were racing from this encounter. I maintained high speed until we exited the dirt road. Afterward, we lost interest in driving around and parked at the resort, leaving the car there without immediately returning it, since rentals were inexpensive. The next day, after consulting resort workers who recommended a beautiful nearby cenote, we drove to another similar-looking dirt path very close to the resort. Following their directions, we drove to the road's end and parked upon seeing cenote signage. We found it easily and, surprisingly, had the place to ourselves. No other cars were visible. We followed signs down a beautiful, scenic pathway, truly peaceful, until we began feeling watched. I don't mean some mystical sixth sense. We literally heard rustling and footsteps surrounding us in the jungle. I told Claire to keep walking. Suddenly, a man appeared speaking Spanish, and again, I responded, "No hablo español." He attempted English, and I understood him trying to tell us to follow him to the cenote. Claire and I exchanged nervous glances before following him. He was leading us differently than originally planned. We were no longer following the signs. Claire tapped my shoulder and pointed at the man's back pocket, where a large knife handle was visible. I whispered for her to run, pushed her to start running, and followed closely behind. The man noticed and began chasing us, but thankfully, he was slow and we easily outran him. We reached the car, and initially I thought he'd stop pursuing us, but as we got inside, 3 people emerged from the path we'd just fled, trying to open the car doors and hitting the glass, attempting to break the windows. Before any windows could actually break, we were already moving. Claire was crying, and honestly, I wanted to cry too. 2 consecutive days of this, we officially despised this place. We returned the car to the rental shop, and fortunately, there were no dents from being pounded on, just dirt stains. We shuttled back to the resort and didn't leave again until departing for the airport days later. We warned the resort staff about the attacks so they could alert other guests. We haven't returned to Mexico since, and honestly, I'm uncertain if we ever will. Even in supposedly safer areas near resorts, 2 consecutive days brought us dangerously close to being robbed and attacked.
If these stories sent chills down your spine, don't vanish into the darkness without hitting that like button. Share your scariest experience in the comments below, because your story might be featured next. And remember, the scariest thing is missing out. So subscribe now, before the next nightmare finds you.